famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt.
He gasped in agony and nearly blacked out, but somehow remained standing. Pitt went rigid as he fought for breath. Did anybody ever tell you you're a psycho case?
Cyclops. Episode 5. Henchman 2, The Revenge.
Like it was like a big X-Men day or an Avengers day or something where like that one saint was finding sailors, the other saint is finding lost things. You know, whatever they excel at, this is what the saints do today. As a kid, it was very interesting.
Interesting combination of belief systems there, that this is the one day per year that the saints are allowed to like leave heaven and wreak havoc on earth. I go to church more.
Wasn't scripture per se, but that's what I understood it to be.
St. Christopher just showing up and forcing people to go on long trips. And of course, the second I start talking, the cat appears.
Hey, cat.
You waited for this.
You see the picture of the tiny dog I sent you?
Tiny angry dog.
It just showed up at our house.
Oh.
No tags. No nothing. I spent 2 days trying to find its owner and like we came here and it was really like an indoor dog. It was used to being carried and it had a braid in the wild, as far as I know. Wild animal hair braiding is not something even primates have picked up yet. So the canine variety. But no one came to get it. I had to drop it off at the pound because it was a needy little bastard.
Alrighty.
I feel terrible, but he tried so hard to like move in. He was like, "You're cool, right? I'm cool. I'll sleep in your bed." I was like, "I'll fit in. You won't notice I'm here. I'll just pee on everything."
You're my new house.
He tried so hard. That cat is going to be a part. You're going to have to like decide if you want 2 lungs or just a cat in a lung space.
Just because of how she sits and how she has to sit on my arm. Her head is right...
She's trying to become one with you.
One with the microphone.
But the microphone is black and your t-shirt is black and the cat is black, so there's at parts, black and white she is. So it's pixelated, especially when you guys move. So it's very interesting. It's like a fever hallucination communication.
We are one. Resistance is futile.
With a cat man. You do seem to be one person. Oh my god. She's really putting it on over the top. Oh, and it's almost election day here. It is crazy.
Don't remind me.
My phone is ringing off the hook. I'm not in a swing state. I'm not. There's some guy who's running for some hyper-local election. Something like akin to dog catcher. Like, his voting base is a few hundred people. Like, not even 500 people. But he's got too much money. And he hired a plane that's dragging a sign around that nobody can read because instead of, like, having 2 lines, he has, like, 8 lines.
Is he thinking it'll work subconsciously?
It's just going back and forth. He thought, we gotta get all the information on the sign.
Listeners, if my math is correct, this episode is coming out in November 23rd, so by the time you hear this, you already know if your country's on fire or not. But for us, it's the heady days of November 1st.
Oh, yes. And
y'all's election is still to go.
The politician who's hired the plane with the sign that nobody can read the letters because he put in 8 lines of font. We know it's you, Tim. We know what you're running for. Now we know where you are. Nobody likes you. Good job.
Excellent.
Or at least he calls 3 times a day, robotically.
That's important.
And the last thing I wanted to tell you today, because I thought it was really cool, and you might like it. Do you know about artificial hearts? You've heard of the concept?
Yes.
There are 2 main models. There's a Jarvis 1 and Jarvis 2. And one's like, you're in the hospital and like it's a console. You're not moving around. And the other one is, you can wait for it, go home with it, if you're waiting for a transplant. So it's a temporary thing, but you could still be mobile, which is amazing. But you don't have a heartbeat. It's a constant whoosh. So there's no da-dum-dum, da-dum-dum, da-dum-dum. And people say it messes with their emotions. They can't get angry.
I can see that. Yeah, if your heart isn't
they can't,
responding to fight or flight,
they can't feel scared. Yeah, and that's wild.
that's the movie Equilibrium.
Well, doesn't worry about that.
Kind of.
I'll write that down.
You haven't seen Equilibrium?
No, why?
It came out shortly after The Matrix, and a lot of people were touting it as like the challenger to The Matrix. I think it's a bit silly. It takes itself far too seriously, but it is very entertaining, and it's essentially in the future there are no emotions. Everybody takes drugs to sort of suppress all strong emotions, so now there's no war or anything like that. But there's also no like art or passion or anything.
Well, those do go hand in hand.
So there's basically these super assassin cops who go in and murder anybody who's found not taking the anti-emotion drugs with like a completely flat heart rate. And the fight scenes are pretty cool. I will give it that. But you should check out Equilibrium.
I will. I just wrote it down. But now I'm thinking of all the ramifications. Like, how can you run? Like the day-to-day stuff.
They're just so goddamn fit. And if you want to see the best movie ever about artificial hearts, Crank 2.
That was a great documentary.
Love that movie. Crank and Crank 2
Crank 1
are just like
it was so much fun.
90-minute music videos of absolute insanity. Just peak cinema.
It's complete it. There's nothing redeeming about it. It's just, you wallow in it. It's gratuity. It's just gratuitousness. It's damn near 80%. You have to pay for a whole table of gratuity. It is wonderful.
100%.
It's not serious. You leave happy and you don't remember any of the plot. It falls off of you like you're silicone coated. Now we have to get to the book.
Yes.
Okay, Cussler hustlers.
I suppose now we have to do an introduction.
Why don't you go first? It's been a while since you've done the whole yama yama.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cussler Hustlers, the only Clive Cussler podcast that is taking part in... Well, I was going to say is taking part in NaNoWriMo this year, except we're not doing NaNoWriMo because that whole organization kind of imploded. So I'm taking part in a completely different Write 50,000 Words in 1 month competition with some friends online.
Our heroes and norms are dying. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers, everyone.
Are you aware of NaNoWriMo?
No, but I am aware of like every system or person or project that you think is sound. You examine a little bit and you're like, oh no. And that's what's happening to everything right now.
Yeah, this was mostly in the last year. So NaNoWriMo is the National Novel Writing Month. It's been around for like 25 years. I've been doing it since before I had kids. But in the last year, there was a whole fracas with a bunch of mods being found to be engaging in inappropriate activity with underage writers on the forums.
Oh, Jesus.
And other mods protecting them. And then the organization came out in favor of using AI and AI tools to write your stories.
No, that's an AI's job. That's not what you're doing.
Yeah. So Nano kind of imploded, and there's a whole bunch of smaller groups forming. And I believe my writing server called theirs Moans, which is the month of attempted novels.
That's wonderful. Also, great for like the Halloween season.
Yeah.
And Christmas is still in the spooky season. It used to be, the ghosts of Christmas. It's where the adults have to confront their ghosts. So even scarier.
And this book is about to confront its own ghost. Man, that was a segue as we
so smart.
Jump into chapter 30 of Cyclops.
And they're using food as a force multiplier of misery.
Yes.
Dirk Pitt is in his cell. He's going to be given a bowl of fish stew / gruel. And I was thinking here, it's all about framing. Because if you call it fish stew or gruel, absolutely terrible. If I tell you it's a cold bisque.
Even fish stew. I heard fish stew and I was like, well, that sounds nice. I bet they do a really nice fish stew in Cuba. But then it's like, oh, no, it's gross and the bread's all maggoty. And I'm like, oh, it's that kind of fish stew.
But they just can't get the spices right.
Yes, because they're trying to psychologically discourage every part of your soul and manipulating people through bad food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, My family psychologically did that to me when I didn't know happiness was a thing, or that a steak could be rare until I was 12.
But unfortunately, you can't use psychological warfare against Pitt.
He knows the tricks. He's like, oh, this is so déclassé. You're using bad food as a psychological torment? I saw this coming a mile away.
Yeah, it just bounces off of him.
Which is like, Dirk, you don't even get hungry. Come on. We know you only sleep when you're knocked out. And then Foscly is back.
Yes. Dirk Pitt is taken to room 6.
Foscly sounds like an ointment you're only supposed to put a film on for a very terrible skin disease. Just a little film.
He's taken to room 6, and I had all these notes written down how he meets this book's gigantic mook. He's somebody who's worked out so hard he was almost deformed, wearing only rubber boots and tropical shorts.
Nothing else.
And it's not until, like, Dirk Pitt, that name sounds familiar. Did you work on the Empress of Ireland project in the St. Lawrence? I seem to recall being on that one. And I'm like, oh my god, it can't be. And then we realize Foscly and Dirk Pitt never met or spoke to each other or made eye contact in Deep Six.
Yeah, he never laid eyes on Foscly. He was only hit from behind. And
yeah,
I completely put that in the memory hole as well, because I thought they had at least had a banter back and forth.
Yeah.
And at some point, Dirk gets the Vulcan death grip.
Yep. Ow. Sorry, that was the cat again. I also wrote down that Foscly does the Vulcan nerve pinch on him and almost breaks his collarbone. And
I was looking up this because I know about the trapezius nerves. I've known about that, and you can pinch them and it causes immense pain. But can you knock somebody out? Can you really bring somebody to their knees? And there's this thing that women get. Not every woman, not me, but if a woman is properly too endowed, she needs a prescription. She can't go to Victoria's Secret. She's got to go to a doctor and get zipped up in something. There's neuropathies that occur because of the straps that are digging into people's that trapeze. And people think they're having strokes or heart attacks, or they're just bugging out because a nerve just got pinched just like that.
I'll believe it, yeah.
So that's part of adulthood we can all look forward to if you're wearing strappy things.
I've had nerves pinched in my neck just from weightlifting, and my old Shihan in Shinzen Rukempo years and years and years ago would show us like the actual version of the neck pinch, where he just like very gently grabs your shoulder from behind and sort of counts down the bumps on your neck with his thumb and just goes like 1, 2, 3, squeeze, and all of us just go and we just go limp
fun.
on one side for just a second. It's like a party trick with him.
Off switch. That's fantastic. And for it to be such a safe environment and he's doing it to everybody, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, everyone's like, okay, no, do your best to stay standing and resist this. 1, 2, 3, squeeze, and they would just fall over.
This was not like the pepper spray demonstrations I've been a part of, where it starts off organized and ends up chaos every time.
Oh god, pepper spray demonstrations. That just makes me think of the scene from Super Troopers where they're shooting each other to prove how bulletproof the bulletproof vests and cod pieces are.
Oh my, 2 people were arrested in Tennessee last week for that. For testing.
Excellent.
They're both fine. They both have broken ribs because it hurts. It's not a get out of jail free card, listeners.
Mm-hmm.
You still fuck your body up if you hit it with something fast.
Yeah.
Your body's just a sausage. Don't try to pop it, listeners. Just don't. But do laugh at people that attempt it.
A small piece of lead traveling at 1,600 feet per second. Physics.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
A lot of force being imparted there.
Inertia's a property of matter.
High-speed lead poisoning. Oh. But yes, Dirk Pitt is getting beaten up.
Foscly interrogates him, and Dirk Pitt is like, okay, we've told you everything. Gunn told you the same thing. Pitt told you the same thing. We were looking for the Cyclops. We were looking for Raymond LeBaron. And there was a freaking hurricane. The helicopter exploded. We can't explain it. And Foscly's like, and then you swam 6 miles in a hurricane specifically to the secret military installation where Raymond LeBaron was being held. And Pitt's like,
yes. Smash it? No.
He's being a bit of a snot here. Even if
absolutely.
I'm a henchman, I am losing my mind. Like, professional courtesy, at least cop to something.
Dirk is being a troll, and Foscali responds to this by kidney punching him so hard he passes out.
That's when you lose a kidney, right? That kidney's never going to be the same. I always figure like we all have arteries and blood vessels, but the plumbing of the human anatomy, it's got to get loose. You can hit that hard. There's like fittings and stuff. I know it's not PEX or copper, but...
He's going to get crimped for sure.
Oh my god. Yeah, it could be a leak. Don't spring a leak. And Dirk wakes up to the sweet nursing demonstrations of Raymond the Baron.
Yeah. I also like that he wakes up to find Raymond, like sponge bathing him, asking if he's okay. Dirk Pitt gets up, pisses pink, but then says the damage probably isn't serious.
That's a generally correct assessment. Pink is okay. Pink you might come back from.
Okay.
There are some...
I've only done that once.
Blood samples. Don't make a habit of it. I'm not suggesting... And people, remember, if you have UTIs, it could manifest as confusion and like dementia. So keep that in mind. But sometimes if you're bleeding like you're peeing red gelatinous stuff, I have too many nurse friends who send me pictures, and I've just seen horrific urine samples because I had made an off the cuff joke about like pee always being yellow. And nurses are like, no, it's not that way. We will break the brain. Do you want trauma? Here's some trauma. Look at this picture.
I don't think I've seen that many pictures, but my dad was a paramedic, and we have lots of nurses in my family, so I've heard some fun stories.
One of my friends worked
of things the human body was never meant to do.
Dialysis, and it's just, it is rough.
Yeah.
Some people are living with rough kidneys out there.
But anyway, yes, Pitt finally meets Raymond LeBaron.
Listeners, if you're not peeing gelatinous blood, your day is so good right now. Be happy. Have an ice cream. You're worth it.
Think how much better your life is.
And Dirk tries to bring up the Cyclops, and Raymond LeBaron is just not having any of that talk.
Yeah. Talks about how Buck tried to escape the island and died by a shark. Joe got sent to room 6 and died in a coma, and Raymond's like, I'm the only one left.
And he also mentioned this is some kind of businessman's or corporate island retreat, sort of Bilderberg-y-esque that he's alluding to. Bilderberg being like a big secret political sex ring that the Bushes and the Reagans were accused of being in, so they absolutely were doing something worse.
Oh, everybody's in that.
Well, how do you know this?
It came out in news articles. No one ever got footage of it. I was in there for one day. I snuck in. I looked good back then. They hit on me a lot. People I recognized from TV walking around, hey, let's go right now. I mean, it's a big gay hookup deal. 4 Republicans.
Wait, you go? Can I come?
Not me, of course. No. I haven't been for years. It comes up on Knowledge Fight a surprising amount.
They're in the Bilderberg group.
Yes. Yes. All this time where they're talking, Raymond is recording Dirk, which I thought there would be recording devices everywhere. But Dirk is being extra surveilled in his prison cell.
I think that they realized Dirk would be smart enough to find one in his cell, because Dirk does like a look around to make sure they're not being recorded, and Raymond's like, oh, don't worry, they're not recording us. But then, in the very next scene, in room 6, he meets up with Foscali, takes the tape recorder out of his bag and goes, yes, I recorded everything.
Yes.
And then there was an incredible series of sentences I had to write down from that scene, where Raymond LeBaron walks in, and it's, Foscali was waiting when LeBaron entered room 6. He sat there, a brooding evil, a human murder machine immune to suffering or death. He smelled of decayed meat.
Like an antiperspirant that's illegal in 40 states.
Foscali is the best.
He doesn't pull any punches here. He's just a bad guy. Nothing redeemable. He even sits like rotting meat.
Yeah. Raymond says, like, I believe him. I believe Dirk. I believe he's not working for the CIA. So Glide tortures him just to, like, pass the time.
What are you going to do? He's a guy that tortures, and he needs to torture somebody. Dirk is there.
Here's somebody. Stab, stab,
But
stab.
how do you know somebody's telling the truth unless they're dead?
Yeah.
Which was always the reason torture is kind of sort of doesn't work. Oh, and then we get Ira again. we got a free roaming fatty here with Ira. Because I'm not body
Badass
shaming,
Santa
but every
Claus.
time he comes up, we're reminded that Ira Hagen is a bit hefty.
I might have to call the episode Free Roaming Fatty. I told you not to use my high school nickname.
And Ira finds Senator Porter. He also does this side tangent about the National Register of Places because George Washington slept in so many different spots and had so many different battles that there's plaques everywhere. Yes, there are plaques everywhere. We have like 40 plaques in our town. General Washington came through once. 40 plaques.
Ira is at a ye old tavern to see Dean Beagle, who is apparently Senator Dean Porter, a famous retired politician. And he pretends to be Ira Hagen, restaurant owner, which is technically true and therefore a pretty good cover. Except, Dean Porter walks out and says, Leo told me you'd be here, so the cover's blown. No point in hiding it any further.
You didn't have to wallow too much in the restaurateur facade.
I love what you've done with the place. What's in your stew? Oh, you're trying to kill all of us. Well, yes, but I wanted to ask about the stew.
This book is very stew heavy.
Oh God, you're right.
And Dean Porter, the ex-senator, just tells him about some Russian opinions he has.
Oh boy.
He's got a lot of opinions about Russia. None of them are good. He's pretty hard line about that.
I wrote down some notes about how they rant about how the United States is kissing the Russians' asses and giving them free technology because theirs sucked. And Dean Porter was only part of the inner core because he helped with government financing, basically just like scooting a few spare $1 billion here and there, things that wouldn't be missed. And Ira's okay, but you're going to start a war. You people need to listen to me about the war that's about to be started on the moon. Dean's like, no, we're not starting a war. You're crazy.
Sometimes people can be too emotionally invested in their points of view to hear somebody else entirely. And this is what you have going on now.
Yeah, a little bit. Fortunately, that would never happen in real life.
So we don't think Porter's a bad guy, but he's got a singular focus. And that cat is going to be a skin graft.
The cat is... I'm talking into the cat's head right now. I'm not sure if the microphone's picking this up.
Well, the black parts, I can always pick part of the cat. You're just pixelated. I think you have glasses on. You probably have a nose still. That didn't right? Still a nose?
Still a nose.
So you're just a man, podcaster, cat cryptoid.
So when I show up one day with the cat ears on my headphones, you won't even notice the difference.
If you show up one day, if I ever meet you in person and I am not coming to your house to meet you in situ, so you look exactly like that with the plants behind, I will not know who you are. I don't recognize anybody outside of where they're supposed to be. So this is your natural habitat. This is where you live forever in my head.
This is where I dwell, in my room full of plants with a cat trying to eat my beard.
Oh, and we glide into 33. Pitt escapes briefly from his room, and he finds an outboard motor.
Wow, you
which he just...
I was going to say, you just skipped like 20 pages in one sentence, but yeah, I mean, basically. So he escapes his cell by taking the hinge off the dresser and using that to keep the latch from closing on his door. From there, he escapes to a garage. From there, he goes out a roof vent. From there, he goes to the repaired fence that they came through during the hurricane and digs a tunnel under it. From there, he goes to the beach to find the engine from their little outboard motor Zodiac boat thing. From there, he walks to a fishing village, searches it but finds out it's empty, and then hides the engine under a cast iron tub. And from there, this whole chapter is a really long travel log. It's full of just lush jungle descriptions and Pitt philosophizing in his head. But all this is just so he can have like free run of the island and no one notices. And he breaks back into the base the same way and finds Al and Gunn.
Yes, but I was going to ask you, an outboard motor, he's just hoisting that one-handed and walking a few miles with that?
I mean, there's very small outboard motors and there's very big outboard motors. And up here where I live in fishing country, I'm used to seeing a boat that has like a huge outboard motor for going fast.
Me too.
And one that has like the 2 horsepower outboard motor for just going at like a snail's pace while the fishing lines trail out behind. It'll have 2 motors in the back. There's some real tiny ones. But this was the 80s. I assume these are all made out of cast iron.
Oh,
Then again, so is Dirk.
very smooth. Cast iron Dirk. Oh boy. You have a crush on him, don't you?
Yes. Anyway, sorry. I kind of rambled on.
Yes. He finds Hal and Rudy, and they are telling him, you gotta save yourself. We're too fucked up. We can't go anywhere. They're not gonna go 3 feet, much less get in a raft or any kind of vessel and be able to escape. They'll just hinder him. They're also very afraid for Jesse, which Dirk, when he was unconscious previously, when False Clyde was torturing him until he passed out, he dreamt of Jesse. They've only encountered each other a few times.
Yeah.
I guess she made quite the impression everyone is worried about her welfare. And Dirk even goes to her for comfort unconsciously when pain takes over his weakness.
Well, she's the woman. You have to rescue the woman in these books. The woman. Singular. You're allowed to have one.
I would be terrible as a henchman or good guy. I'd be like, I'd save the majority of the people.
No, just her. I mean, if Al was like, forget Jesse, rescue me, you'd think, pretty bad things about Al, I assume.
You're right. The double standard is there.
Yeah.
And I suppose they would be of the chivalry-minded bros, save the lady. Still, Dirk unconsciously, when he gets battered into a beatdown of unconsciousness, his subconscious mind searches for Jessie and her comfort and her embrace and her touch. They've met twice.
Yep. They met once at a party.
Sometimes when you slip into your conscious, you think of like your mom, or there's a video of cockpit recordings when planes go down. When people go really bananas, they ask for their wives. People live no more than a minute.
They met once at a party and they hated each other. They met once in Sandecker's office and they hated each other. And then they had a blimp ride that ended very poorly. That's it.
So, what about you? What if you go to the dentist and you're gonna succumb to an injury? But a dental fatal flaw. You're gonna think of like Gloria at reception or your wife as you're heading towards the white light. Like, oh, Gloria was really a bitch to me when I checked in. Gloria.
If I was in fear that the next victim of this dentist was Gloria, I might be concerned about Gloria, but great, now I'm even more scared of dentists.
Now you're a better person than I am. Every which way, maple syrup wholesome person. Oh, and then we go to 34, and the president's doing a ribbon cutting for a monument, a new statue for the Leopoldville survivors, or victims.
Yeah, it was the 800 men who went down on the Leopoldville, off France on Christmas Eve in 1944. Never has such a wartime tragedy waited so long for its due, and he's shaking hands with everybody on the way out. It's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then there's Leo.
Yes, the president put this out here just to have a boring public photo op, but not one that was too popular. A lot of press didn't show, so the president kind of picked his moment and finessed Leo to come and encounter him.
Yes.
And Leo still asks the president, don't you remember me? Do you know who I am? And the president's like, I don't know who you are.
I do appreciate how hard he's sticking to this, too. Leo's like, this time there's no fake bomb. I don't have a fake bomb on me. Don't worry. I did plant a real bomb at Oates' table where he's having breakfast right now, so that's how I know you'll let me go. But all this is just to lead up to saying, get Ira Hagen off my back. And the president's like, who? I don't know what you're talking about.
And the president sticks with that. He's like, if they're both going to play down, the president's doubling down. I have no idea what you're talking about. Huh? And he's like, you know what? I think you're full of beans. Get the hell out. He kicks him out right in the middle of the street.
He triples down and says, I talked with my experts. There's no way there's a base on the moon. Like, everybody says it's ludicrous. You're just making this up. And Leo is like, cannot believe it.
This is a great tactic. You're not fighting on the merits of or the content of the argument. You're just pushing that aside and just going, no, I found out you're just a crazy person and this is all nonsense. We don't even have to talk about the substance of what you want to talk about. You're just crazy or insignificant. You're out. He doesn't even get a voice. It is so infuriating to just be, he was extinguished.
Mm-hmm.
Which causes rage.
But all of this is just a double secret reverse ploy because Ira Hagen is in an RV behind the president's limo. And when Leo gets out and like gets into his own car and they drive off, Ira Hagen follows them with the super high-tech listening equipment, and they have a CIA helicopter in the air, and he has a CIA driver who's like, what is all this about? And Ira's like, it's a gambling thing, don't worry about it.
And Ira has one more thing, a picnic basket. So during this whole escapade, he takes out his goose liver pate and spreads it on some crackers, which is really a throwaway line, but how do you do that neatly? Ira, come on, get a hold of yourself. Just have a Cliff Bar or something.
He's a restaurateur, he's a gourmand, he likes his food. I do appreciate how they have to cram food into him and the book at every chance they get. I think Clive was like on a diet and hungry while writing this one.
Yes.
Here's all the food I can't have anymore.
Absolutely. He's probably had high cholesterol, so like the stews, the chowders, he's hoping he gets gruel. Grog Raw is off the table for him, and Pitt is back in his cell after meeting with Al and Gunn, but he knows he's got to escape tonight.
One final thing with Ira Hagen. So Ira Hagen and his RV and his helicopter, they're following Leo's car, and the car turns into a shopping mall, and they lose him in the parking lot.
Yes, the shopping mall was overrun. It was a Saturday.
Yeah.
They couldn't park.
On the way to Christmas here.
And as soon as they go around, they could have escaped from it's a nice place to lose somebody. You can go in, your car can be obfuscated, you can leave from any one of the multiple exits.
Yep.
If there's only one car tailing you, they can't cover all the exits.
And I only mention this because the shopping mall parking lot will be important later.
Foreshadowing.
Da, da, da. I don't want somebody accusing me of not covering my bases. You know, all of our many listener.
Sir, listener. Hi, Stevie J. I miss you.
What? This is your fault.
Yes, and then I think at the end of that chapter, is that where Dirk finds the bathtub?
Yeah.
Decide, or...
No, not yet.
Okay.
Chapter 35 is where Dirk Pitt is trying to sleep and be patient because he knows he has to leave the island tonight, but then he's interviewed by General Velikov again.
And he brings Gly, and those two really just don't get along.
Oh, right. This chapter does end with another showdown with Gly, and a sentence that I had to write down to be believed. Velikov examined Pitt with the contempt only a Slav could give to a Mongol.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Maybe that made more sense. One thing I actually learned this week from my daughter. My daughter loves Russian language and Russian culture and Russian fiction and Russian art, and talked about how they don't quite have the same kind of racism in Russia as they do here, but except for people from Siberia and Mongolia. So this might be like a very Russian-specific racism, which was maybe more common in the 80s.
I also, especially in the 80s, did not like Chinese. A lot of Chinese people who were in Russia for business, because they were both communist countries, there was overlap and intersocial connections, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, the Siberia, huh?
Yeah, because you forget, Russian's really big. Siberia is, not a lot of indigenous white people there.
There shouldn't be indigenous people there. It's Siberia.
Well, that too.
Nobody thinks of people in Siberia. They think of a vast expanse of ice and tears.
People think that about the far north of northern Canada, but no, there's a lot of people up there. Well, maybe not a lot of people up there, but we do have...
Oh, I know. I've met people who, that's their hometown. They're from Siberia.
Neat.
Did they have a drinking problem? Yes. But that's not indicative of everyone from Siberia. Just a handful of people that I've met.
Unrelated, Dirk is being re-interrogated again, and he trolls Foss-Gly until Foss-Gly snaps.
So Foss-Gly does lose his cool. Does he knock Pitt out?
Dirk Pitt fakes being knocked out. Like, he fakes being worse than he is. He counts on all sadists being cowards, so he saves up all of his speed for this counterattack. And, when Foss-Gly comes to finish him off, he stands up and launches, what do we have? Straight, jab, jab, hook. So 2-1-1-4, which is a terrible boxing combination. And he lands all 4 punches on Foss-Gly, who is completely unfazed.
podcasters, we've had something we've never had before. Proof that another podcaster has had physical interactions with other humans. That, 2, 4, 1, like, he did it. He described a combo of punches there. He's fought. This guy's fought.
A 2-1-1-4, yeah.
Unlike other podcasters who don't fight, Cussler hustlers will throw it.
And then Foskly responds by ripping the sink out of the wall.
Yes, and he tries to throw it.
Trying to beat Dirk to death.
Gets caught up on the door handle.
Yes.
So the momentum is broken. That's where Dirk Pitt, then he feigns unconsciousness.
He throws the sink at Dirk, and Dirk tries to dodge, but the sink hits Dirk and the door and just blasts them both out into the hallway. Which I admit was kind of awesome.
And I have from there, Pitt tries to go save Jesse.
Yep, chapter 36 starts with him having a 3-hour nap and waking up surprised that he's still alive.
Which happens to him all the time.
But fortunately, because he's Dirk Pitt, I had to write down this sentence, he willed himself to reject pain. Something that all men can do. I can't.
I think you can walk it off if you had to.
I have to walk off a good sinking.
Somebody, I could hurt myself sleeping. Just
same.
My neck's at the wrong angle and I'm totally in a wheelchair the next day. Dirk just is taking the beating every which way. Everything should hurt all the time. He should know no relief from pain. He's been hit too many times.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have like the adrenochrome or the whatever the people use now, the stem cells.
Stem cells and spinning your platelets and stuff.
Centrifuging children so their blood separates and then using that. I don't
Oh my god, that reminds me. I have an amazing website to send you.
Centrifugingchildren.com.
Kind of. It took me entirely too long to realize that the website was satire, because it's very professional looking, but it's all about doing human life offsets rather than carbon offsets. So, like, it does fully, it has one entire section.
Human life?
It has one entire section about spinning the plasma out of America's unneeded children in order to further the lifespans of those people with the highest human life value, the people who grow the economy. It's this dead straight, dead serious satire site called Repair. Oh my god, it's amazing. It has like the happy font, like balloons and clowns, and it's Plasma Kids. And it has all these kids who are just like so happy being hooked up to machines to have their plasma drained.
So it's all corporate. It's all corporate wash. It looks happy.
Or it looks amazing. It's an incredible website.
You must send it to me.
I will.
But he meets up with Jessie. She's naked. She's beaten to a pulp. They've taken away her dignity by taking away her clothing, and just let her rest on one singular dirty blanket.
But only beaten to a pulp on her face. The sentence I had to write down. They brutalized a woman's most valuable asset. Her face. And I had to write down after that, "Oh, Clive, you were doing so good there for a minute."
I know. But when you do beat somebody in the face, you are knocking their brain around too. So she probably doesn't feel great.
But now Dirk Pitt says he's filled with a savage vengeance unlike anything he's experienced before. And I have to think that all previous 6 Pitt novel women are a little upset by that.
Or maybe he only gets triggered if he sees a naked woman in distress. He's got a very particular starting point for whatever you want to call it.
No, what I have is a romantic abnormality. One so unbelievable that it must be hidden from the public at all costs.
He's like all the incels ranting about video games. I can't get aroused by this. Look what you've done.
His speed dating is very problematic. He just tells Lucille, I know this sounds strange, but you just have to get naked and have a lot of bruises, and then I'm there. And she's ringing the bell, next.
But in this state, she does admit that there actually is a presidential conspiracy. She is here on orders from the president to make contact with the Cuban government, and all of their lives were marked as expendable, and Dirk Pitt is fine with that. He's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. Moving on.
Oh, America! Where have you been all my life?
When the Sylvester Stallone vehicle I was telling you about before, one of the side characters refreshingly says, Sylvester Stallone's character is called Dwight. She was like, And the side character, in a totally refreshing new dialogue situation I've never encountered before, she was like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm just your side character. I'm not signing up for the Dwight life. You come into town, you do all this mobster shit, and suddenly I have to be in a gunfight? It's not fair. Someday, one of Dirk's side characters will be like, don't drag me into... I'm not telling you shit about my life. I'm telling you about the president. You're just some guy I've met a few times. The presidential conspiracy? Why would she be telling him that?
I looked you up on Google. A lot of people die around you.
Just tell him to get off the island. You look him up on Google now, yes. AI will say, Dirk Pitt, part of the very real Numa organization.
At the end of the chapter, he escapes back to the garage, steals 10 gallons of gas, and somehow gets it out the roof vent. There's a whole big thing about how he makes a makeshift pulley. We can skip that. On the way back to where he hid the motor, he finds out that all the palm trees on the beach are actually fiberglass, and they're hydraulic arms that lift and adjust a huge satellite dish. So it is just like James Bond GoldenEye. There's a super secret space communication satellite dish on the beach, but he's like, I don't have time to deal with that now. So he bolts the engine to the boat and putters away from Cuba.
So we have Chekhov's palm trees there. Like,
Yeah.
I want to know more about these palm trees.
I was going to say, I'm sure it'll be important later, but I'm actually equally sure it'll just get explained in a paragraph at the very end of the book. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, that was a super secret space communication base.
Or, if he's really cool, he'll just drop it and never mention it again. And it's just something that will nibble on our brains forever. And fun palm tree fact, in the movie, because it's Halloween time, the 1978-79 classic Halloween, it's supposed to take place in Illinois, but if you look at the movie and watch it not paying attention to the topless ladies or the monster, you'll see palm trees in the background. And that's fun.
Isn't it amazing how Illinois looks nothing like Southern California? But now we get to Part 3, Salinas 8, Chapter 37, October 30th, 1989, Kazakhstan, USSR.
Kazakhstan. Viva Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan. We are at an hour.
I guess we are. All right, we will start Part 3 next time, I guess.
I have to reassemble my stove.
Ooh, that is no good.
Oh, it's great fun. Oh, it's so much better than cleaning. I'd much rather take something apart and put it back together than, like, sweep.
Okay, I wasn't sure exactly how far your stove had been disassembled.
Oh, it's all tiny pieces now.
Hey, well, good luck then.
Thank you. And I hope...
As long as it beats cleaning.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Cat is back.
Now the cat leaves. The cat has podcast timing. Get that cat an agent.
No, now I'm going to make you go away so I can eat lunch. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're super.
Delicious borscht. It's your favorite. Hi, Nancy.
Did you hear that?
Hi, Stephanie. Borscht is fantastic. Borscht, she made homemade borscht, not bad.
Oh, yeah, she makes that a lot.
That's a great soup. You're a lucky man.
She says
See
she's
you
going to
later.
send you the recipe. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Everybody's looking for the Cyclops. It's the boat with the treasure inside. But everyone forgot about the Cyclops because they all went to Cuba and died. Someday we'll get back to the Cyclops. It doesn't have the statue anymore. What happened to the gold on the Cyclops? We'll probably find out in part 4. False Gly's back in the thick of it. Our muscle-bound henchman supreme. He has a lot of fun torturing Dirk Pitt. There seems to be a recurring theme. Who knows where the story's gonna go? It seems like we've got 3 or 4 plots. Who's going to call us the most fun? The Russians, the Cubans, or the astronauts?
has been.
Hustler, hustlers.
Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram.
Hustler, hustler.